Alright, what is up, guys? As you can see, I'm outside and it looks like there's like a hurricane forming, or I don't know what the heck. Like, I'm gonna show you guys the weather. I don't know what the heck this is. It's pretty colors, but there's like something forming over there. Alright, what's up, guys? So I actually wanted to do this live today because it was based on a training that I gave to my team. Excuse my crazy hair, but I gave this training to my team, and I actually got a ton of people messaging me saying, hey, I want to know that value that you gave. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do a live, and where's the whiteboard? You're so funny. Do a live and just kind of go over the same training that I did the other day. It's not going to be as long, but I do want to give you guys some information. I titled it Fear of Failure or Fear of Success, because ultimately those are two different fears that people have, and most of the time they don't even know the difference between the two. I put a poll on my social media a couple days ago, and I got a ton of replies, and they're like, I don't really know the difference. I did get a lot of people say, I think it's fear of failure. Others, I think it's fear of success, but they really don't know. They're not sure. So, I put this training together for a reason, because I want you guys to know the difference. I want you guys to get educated, and hopefully this weather permits. I know it's getting dark already, but we're going to make it quick. And I want you guys to know that there's a psychological factor behind the fear of both failure and success. But the fear of failure really is something that motivates you to avoid that feeling, right? So what we tend to do is something called self-sabotage. You end up wanting to avoid feeling a certain way because ultimately us as human beings, we're not perfect, right? So we grew up making mistakes, as human beings make all the time, right? And as you're doing that, in the future, you want to avoid feeling that type of disappointment, right? You want to avoid feeling anger, frustration, maybe some regret or sadness, or even confusion, right? And what happens to a confused mind? It does nothing. And we are always wanting to move towards progression. You don't want to ever take steps backwards, right? So unconsciously, you're self-sabotaging. And because of that, we tend to stay still. We tend to avoid certain behaviors. We tend to avoid doing a lot of things because we're afraid of maybe what people are going to say about us. So unconsciously, you're sabotaging your success before you even give yourself the opportunity to do that. Your fear literally paralyzes you so that you don't do anything. You don't give yourself the opportunity to win, right? And it's very similar to, it's very similar to feeling that sense of shame, right? It's about avoidance, about avoiding certain things, avoiding future disappointments, right? People who have fear of failure, they're motivated to avoid failing. They're motivated to avoid triggers of emotions of shame, like you're not good enough, or you're not capable, right? The inability to pursue the future that you desire. Everybody desires a great future, right? That's why we do the things that we do. That's why we go to school, right? For the people that grew up here and your parents told you get a degree. That's what my parents did. So I did that. But we want more than that, right? That's why we apply for jobs that maybe we don't even want those jobs, but it's all part of the way that we grew up, right? And for so long, I remember having that fear of failure and not wanting to do or say the things that I really wanted to do because I was afraid of other people's opinions. And let me just tell you something. People's opinions do not pay your bills. So honestly, who cares what they say? Do whatever it is that you've been called to do. Every single one of you guys has been called to do something different. What God has called me to do is going to be different than what God has called you to do. Maybe it's in the same element, but there's a difference between you and I, right? God created us all to be unique. He created us all to be, individuals, people that have different purposes in life. We have different people to help and impact and change their life, right? Even if it's in the same field, right? For everybody, maybe that's working in the medical field. You're all in the same field, but you have different patients that you're going to treat. It's the same with the industry that I'm in. If you're in the same industry that I'm a part of, that's amazing. You have people to impact that maybe I can't reach, right? Your audience is going to be different than mine. So don't let the opinions of other people dictate your behavior. They don't pay your bills. Okay, I'm going to remind you that once again. People's opinions do not pay your bills. Maybe part of that fear of failure is that you lower the expectation that they have of you before you even do anything about it, right? Beforehand. Or maybe it could be that you're distracting yourself. For the people that say, oh, I'm a huge procrastinator, maybe that's not because you're actually a procrastinator, not because you actually like to procrastinate, but because you're afraid of the outcome, right? Those are things that maybe you want to ask yourself. You procrastinate or you distract yourself. Now, how do you fix that fear? You own it. Own the fear. I've said this many times, as I've presented on stage or, spoken in front of a group of people or whatever it is, I boast about my weakness. Just like the Bible says, boast about your weakness, because that's where you allow God into your life and you allow him to work in and through you, right? I boast about my weaknesses. I was never a fan of speaking in front of a crowd full of people, but in order to get to the other side, I have to own that fear. But I'm not going to stay stuck in that frequency. I'm going to surpass that. I'm going to work through that. I'm not going to stay in that same state, that same mental and emotional state of fear. I'm going to own it, but I'm also going to focus on what I can control. I can control me getting better by practicing this craft, this skill set. I'm going to practice those things, right? Now, what's the difference between the fear of failure that I just went over and then the fear of success? Because some of you guys, you say, well, I don't really have a problem of, that fear of failure, but I'm actually afraid of the success. What's the difference between the two? Fear of success is maybe you post something on Instagram and you like the likes, or you want the likes, but at the same time, you run away from the spotlight. You don't like the spotlight. You want the likes. You like the way that it feels. But then once you're put in the spotlight, you're like, whoa, hold up. This is not where I feel comfortable anymore. I like being behind the scenes, right? Or maybe you're afraid of thinking of how this can possibly change you. Because success does change people. Unfortunately, it changes people, some for the better, but some not so great. So maybe you're afraid of how this is going to change you in your future. Once you reach that level of success, am I going to be acting a little bit differently, or am I going to act the same? You have the capability, but you're worried that you won't deliver. That's a big one. You have the capability of achieving that type of success, but you will not deliver. Okay, that's a different type of self-sabotage that we talked about before. So maybe you know the things that you have to do in order to achieve that level of success. And you're capable of doing all of those things, but you don't do it because of that fear. The fear of success, the fear of what it's going to do to you. What if I choke? What if I can't deliver? You know you can, but you ask yourself, well, what if I can't? And you continue focusing on the negative things, focusing on the negative aspects of it. And whether you choose to believe it or not, we grew up with fear instilled from the very beginning. Since we were babies, we were grown up being taught to fear certain things, right? The only thing that wasn't taught to us is fear of falling and fear of loud noises. And you can actually research that. Everything else, you were taught to fear that. Right? So what if I don't deliver? What if I choke? What if I can't do the things that I have to do, even though you know that you've been preparing all of this time? What if I can't present on stage? What if I can't do the things that God has called me to do? No, yes, you can. You just have a fear of success. And part of that could be the imposter syndrome. So maybe you're on here, maybe you don't know, you've never heard of what the imposter syndrome is. It's when you doubt your skills, your talents, your accomplishments, your abilities, and have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. And that's the biggest reason why it's holding you back. Many high achieving people actually have that fear, the imposter syndrome. They have all of the skills, all the talents, all of the abilities, right? But the fear of being exposed as a fraud, as not being good enough, maybe not deserving enough. That's a big one, that you don't deserve success. You do deserve success. God has called you, He's chosen you, He's appointed you to be successful. But it's a matter of what you do with that success, whether it's financial success, whether it's success of you being put in with a platform where you can be of a good impact to other people around you, right? Like pastors or leaders, teachers, people that others follow. You've been given that platform. You've been given that vehicle. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with the success that comes your way? Those are questions that you want to ask yourself, and you want to prepare yourself, because the Bible says about preparing yourself for the blessings. If you're not actively preparing yourself for success, then you're automatically preparing for failure. Now you choose, which one of the two do you want to focus on? Remember what I said before. You want to focus on what you can control, not on what you cannot control, right? So how do you change those two types of fear? How do you change the fear of success or the fear of failure? Personal development. It wasn't until I started to listen to podcasts, listen to leadership, information like YouTube, audiobooks, right? Or maybe you like to read the physical books. I'm not a huge reader, but I do like to do personal development. I like to watch different videos. I like to listen to audiobooks. I read here and there. I read the Bible. That counts, right? Personal development. That's going to allow you to raise your frequency to another level. What is it that you're feeding yourself? Because whatever you feed yourself, whatever you feed your mind, whatever you feed your emotion, whatever you feed your spirit, all of that is what's filling you up, and whatever's inside of you is going to come out of you, right? The words that come out of your mouth, they started in your mind. They started in your heart, right? It didn't just come out of your mouth out of nowhere, but you thought about it. Everything that exists in life started in the spiritual. And when it started in the spiritual, even before then, it started in your mind, right? Everything around you starts in your mind first. Once you think about it, then it's being put in the spiritual, and then you work towards that. And then it happens in the physical. So there's steps to this. So what are you feeding yourself? What are you feeding the internal part of you? Because think of yourself like a sponge. We're all sponges, right? So when you're a sponge, you're absorbing, and then whatever you absorb, and then you squeeze yourself, what's going to come out of it? Ask yourself that question too. What's going to come out of you? What's going to come out of your mouth? Whatever it is that you feed yourself, that's what's going to come out. So that's why I when I focus on personal development, I think of, what do I want to feed myself? And I think about the books like Think and Grow Rich, right? Think and grow rich. Not work and grow rich, but think and grow rich, because it starts in your mind first. Or the book How Successful People Think by John C. Maxwell. If you don't know who John C. Maxwell is, he's somebody who's dedicated his whole life to leadership, to personal development, to teaching people how to do the same thing that he's been able to do for himself. Notice a pattern here. Everything is think, and then it happens, right? So what are the thoughts that you tell yourself in your mind? Every single morning, practice the art of gratitude. Every morning, you have to practice that art of gratitude. Because again, it's whatever's internal that's then going to be external, right? What are you practicing? What are you grateful for? Every day, you got to show gratitude, right? So it's reprogramming the way that you think. Because again, how you grew up, the things that you were surrounded by, maybe by your family, your friends, your neighborhood, your schools, wherever it is that you grew up in, all of our environments were different. So the way that you grew up really was setting you up for the way that you think about yourself, about your future, about things around you, right? So it's time to reprogram your level of thinking and really raise that frequency, raise your vibration, right? So that's it. Like I said, I wanted to keep this short, but I wanted to give you guys that value, because I know so many of you guys were asking, what's the difference? I don't really know what the difference between the two is. So I hope that you guys were able to learn something today. I'm grateful for you guys too. I love you guys so much, and maybe I'll be doing this again soon. I don't know when. I do it sporadically, but yeah, it got really dark over here. Hang on, I'm gonna take you guys back for a second. It got so dark. It's kind of crazy. It's pretty. Alright guys, have a wonderful week, and I love you guys.